Hey guys, so welcome back to the Existential Lounge. It's been a little minute since we've seen you guys, since we've sat down and had a nice talk, but life happens sometimes. But we're back, and today we're going to be talking about something that not only do we think most young adults are facing, but something that weighs on us at a on a daily basis, I'd say. It's that main causer of anxiety, that very uneasy feeling that you don't know if your life is going in the right direction, if you don't know what you're doing is right, or even if what you're doing and actively trying to do is enough. Um, so that is the idea of having a quarter life crisis. A lot of people always talk about that midlife crisis where you've got your whole life set up and you don't know what's next or if you've gone in the right career, but a lot of people overlook that thing that happens first, and it happens to most people, is that midlife crisis that I just graduated from college. I'm a few years off of college, something like that. And I'm in some job that I don't like, or I don't have a job and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's what am I supposed to do next. There's no like guide. There's no like rubric that tells us how we're supposed to maneuver. I feel like a big issue there is that we spend so much of our educational basis. This just sparked in my head because of the whole rubric analogy, but a lot of our development in our educational world, since we first start in the first grade all the way to you finish college, it's very, um, it's very made out for you.
I was about to say one size fits all
Yeah,
type of deal.
exactly. Like there's a rubric. I know what I'm supposed to have due by this next few weeks. I
Yeah.
know once I sign up for a class and the first day of class, teacher gives out I forget what syllabus that'll tell me what things are going to be due, what days, what we're going to be learning in specific situations, and then after 20ish plus years of doing that, we're randomly thrown into figure it out,
Yeah.
right? But I've kind of rambled on.
Yeah, it just becomes a free fall where you're pushed out of this clockwork system and everything's up to you now. And there's so many very complex elements to life that are they're not answered and they're kind of left up to you to figure out,
Yeah,
like, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do that? Does it satisfy what you want from life? If you're going to put yourself into this 9 to 5 type of situation,
uh-huh.
you know, working 40 hours a week on a particular craft that, like, it needs to be utilizing skill sets that you enjoy to use.
Right.
It needs to be ideally creating some sort of impact that you stand by and that you support, and financing the type of life that you want to live. How do you want to live? When are we ever told to ask ourselves these questions? We're just,
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many parts of life that we're just kind of miraculously expected to just, like, oh, this is supposed to click.
Yeah.
Boom, there we go. I know what type of impact I want to have on the world, and who do I want to be to myself, to those around me, and to the world. And it's a lot. It's a lot to take in and to navigate. And honestly, I feel that the school system doesn't equip us
It doesn't.
to be able to
There's
navigate this.
there's that old cliche that the school system is really just a machine that pushes out factory workers as opposed to like free thinkers, people
Yeah,
that want to figure out what they want to do in life. It's not made for you to find out what you want to do in life because this thing's made to make you a worker bee. You're not. That's all you're supposed to be. This is what this is designed to do. And I don't fully agree with that cliche, but there's truth to it for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Um, I think that it's designed in such a way that never makes you think critically. It's a regurgitation of information that's already been given to you.
yeah.
And we give gold stars for like who memorized this passage the best. And I fall victim to that myself a lot. I think that I got a lot of brownie points for that go while I was going through my educational time. And um, there's that sense of like pride and I memorized this certain section of history the best, or I memorized how to use this equation the best. But in reality, like, what is it doing for me now? I can't remember. Again, a cliche. When's the last time I used the Pythagorean theorem, right?
Yeah, I just had a thought that I think could be really useful in the school system, and it's that we're always told to use particular algorithms. For instance, like in English class, we're supposed to recognize certain patterns and what did the person mean by this and all that. But when are we ever asked, what did this mean to us, and write about that? Like, how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
And even in history, there could be events. How did that make you feel to read that?
Right.
What sort of importance does this particular person in history and what they did, what does that represent to you, and how might that affect the way you lead your life, and or the way that you view those around you in a sense? I feel like
And I,
that they're good.
I think that a practice like that would also be more impactful because as opposed to just learning about this event as like this outside thing, if you internalize it and make it something to yourself, how did that impact you? You
Yeah,
can better understand how that affected the world,
yeah.
how if it's a negative thing, how you can change so that these things don't happen
we're,
anymore.
we're, we're, we're we're always asked to look at things and have some regurgitative answer, but like we're not primed to frequently utilize, understand, and just implement meaning, right? It's like all our life we're fed to memorize and just apply this, but I feel like in these sorts of like questions, if we were exposed to that more frequently, maybe when we're in our freaking 20s and trying to figure life out where meaning is at the forefront of everything, it's like, well, how often were we ever told to use it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's
How
like
often did we use
you
this?
you were on this roller coaster that had handrails the whole time, and randomly
Yeah,
they just disappeared.
I don't even know what meaning meant in high school,
Yeah,
honestly. Like in the grand scheme of like, I guess it's abstract philosophical application. I didn't think about that. And
because we weren't told to, and
yeah,
um, yeah, like kudos to all the like super introspective people that did have that initiative to think about these things on their own. But most people don't. Most people don't have that, and are never taught that by this system. And once they reach that adulthood, are left in that free fall of nothingness.
yeah, yeah. And I think that so important as, I mean, parents. One day if we're parents, I guess exposing a child to these frames of thinking is just all more important than
Yeah.
if we're not going to learn that in school. But yeah, I think that really implementing more philosophizing about,
What do you want to want?
yeah, what do you want to want, what matters to you.
Yeah.
It's like we kind of brainwashed in this system where we blink and it's over, and we're handed a box of things that like we feel ill-equipped to use and haven't used as much as maybe we should have,
Right.
and that equipped us to better navigate when we graduate, if we go to college. What do you want after that?
Not even after that, like just definitely after that, but just backtracking a little bit there,
Yeah,
I've always found the concept that we tell a 17 to 18-year old, hey, pick what you're going to study and this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. That's crazy. That decision in a 17-year old, I didn't fully understand that when I chose my major, that like this is what you're going to do, right?
yeah,
Like this is going to curtail your entire professional life.
yeah. Yeah. There's this thing where I forget who was talking about it. There was some figure having this conversation, but they're like, you could take a 5-year-old who, I wanted to be a paleontologist at one point. I
I feel like
love
every little
dinosaurs.
boy
Yeah,
did.
yeah. But like, there was nothing you could have told me at 5 years old that like, you shouldn't do this,
Right.
or uh, eh, you know, older me looks at that and goes, "It's silly." I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I wanted to do it for maybe the wrong reasons, maybe the right reasons actually.
Yeah,
But
we have no idea
yeah,
because that those things kind of like get squashed,
yeah.
right?
But it evolves essentially, and as we grow as people, so too do our desires, and what gives our lives meaning. And so, we super glue ourselves on a particular pathway,
Hmm.
that we expect is going to lead us to where we want to go, and that in 10 years from now we'll still enjoy it. We blink and we hate it. um, and
Yeah, I've
it's
heard
something.
stories of like people that like go through a whole like medical doctor program
Yeah,
and they've reached what they've been working for the last 15 years of study and they hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what do you do? What are you supposed to do at that point? I can't just pick up and do another 15 years of schooling in something else, right?
Yeah.
Like what are you supposed to do when you find out that the thing that you arbitrarily picked out of a hat when you were 17 isn't what you want to do when you're 35?
Yeah, it's frustrating because it doesn't seem life doesn't seem to have it's unpractical in some ways where job jumping can be very damaging financially to us, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're in situations where, like, you know, especially med school, it's in some ways not easily transferable to other areas of
It's
life.
not like
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, you know, if you find yourself in that situation, there's people that have become successful out of it, but I'm sure there's a lot that haven't and have found themselves, like, you know, falling down the drain where it's like, I don't know where else I could be useful. I don't know what else to do. I hate this. Do I commit myself to something that this opens the door to another big, you know, conversation within the quarter life crisis dilemma, which is, do I commit myself to something because it's financially profitable, but it doesn't fulfill me? Or, you know, do I jump to something that does fulfill me, but maybe isn't as financially as profitable as I want it to be?
Yeah.
Um, and we're kind of torn. And I think we both find ourselves in a situation where we're doing jobs at the moment. You know, we're 27, we're doing jobs that we don't feel that fulfillment whatsoever from. They're financing our lives to a minimal degree. You know,
Yeah.
we have our independence. You know, we don't live at home anymore. But the sting of lack of fulfillment
Right.
is something that is one of the greatest, if not, it is the greatest suffering I have ever experienced.
Yeah. Feeling like you're wasting away every minute you're in this office.
Yeah.
I I joke with you all the time about my really loud clock. In my office, I have this clock that just ticks
Yeah.
the loudest seconds you will ever hear. And I sit in my office, I count them out sometimes. I just count
Yeah.
and I've gotten to like 300 before just
Yeah.
counting because it, to some degree, that seems more fulfilling than my actual job.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's an interesting suffering that is unique and exclusive just to the human condition. You
Yeah.
know, there's no, birds aren't like concerned with being a bird optimally, or polar bears being polar bears properly. They're just being, and we were cursed with this complexity of trying to figure out what tickles our psyche in a desirable way.
Yeah. Tickles
And
our psyche.
it's just like, it's rough. It's rough because it's, you know, the topic of everything being in flux. Nothing is ever the same,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so to our desires, they change. They're always going to be different. Who knows if, you know, next week I hit my head and I'm like, whoa, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
This sounds amazing to me. I never wanted to do it or thought of doing it, but
Mm-hmm.
here we go. I think such a frustrating element to the quarter life crisis is it feels like so much is up to chance. It just feels like you can work on yourself so much and build, and there's a degree where you just got to hope that the ship you're building and setting out into the water just sails,
Yeah.
and it gets a desirable wind in its sail.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully there's wind, because, you know, sometimes you go to sail and there's no wind. What then?
Yeah. What
You,
happens when you've sailed for
yeah.
however many years and you look back and that land that you set off from is not even in sight anymore?
Yeah, yeah. It was a mirage or whatever.
Yeah. It's just another thing that I want to bring up too is once once you've studied in a certain field, it feels like you've put your eggs in this basket,
Mm.
and there's a fear of letting that go because it's like I've worked for this already. Where else am I going to go that I'm going to have the credentials right to
Yeah,
do this?
absolutely.
Like I'll open up a little bit here. My thing's criminology, and I can't just go and decide that I want to be, I don't know, a dentist, right? Because my criminology degree is not going to get me a dentist job.
Yeah,
But I know that I criminology is not something I'm passionate about. It's not something that I want to be in for the next 30 years. But what do I do when that's what I've done, right? What do I do when that's the thing that I have? That's my, like, that's what's in my arsenal is my criminology degree.
Yeah, I think the thing that I suffer with is I pursued philosophy, and in so many ways I feel like it's prepared me for the things in life that school before college did not. What we were touching on earlier regarding meaning, regarding of inner searching, introspection, just looking at the world from a outside of the box type of way.
Right.
But I also feel like it didn't prepare me for classical, um, practical work pursual type of.
Yeah, there's the like joke that
There
a
is.
philosophy degree just doesn't apply. Like,
Yeah, you get your head in the clouds. You're thinking about problems. That is that paying the bills? How's that working for you? Like, cool, you may feel enlightened or
the
whatever, but
philosophy major that's like a barista
yeah, you're like
somewhere.
a fucking Diogenes of the world, but like, who wants to like live in a bucket, you know?
Right.
But like, cool, yeah, you're all enlightened and such, but you're kind of scoffed at, and um, it is frustrating because I mean, man, I went into college having no idea what I wanted to pursue, zero, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't, and I was just like, philosophy's cool, it seems practical. I kind of wanted to pick something that was a jack of all trades in a sense, where it's just easily applicable everywhere.
Right.
I'm going to be utilizing critical thinking and such anywhere I go, and um, it's definitely a double-edged blade where it's useful, it's super useful, but um,
And with me, I chose criminology because in a lot of ways, I could say naively thought that I could like infiltrate the system and create this like massive change. But now that I'm like at this stage where I have the criminology degree and I work in the criminology field, I see that that was just like I said, it was naive. It's unrealistic, and that's not in a like pessimistic view, but like it just a matter of fact that me saying that I'm gonna like take it out from the inside or from however the saying goes, from the inside out or something like that,
yeah,
is just not true. It's like I'm a pebble being thrown at a mountain, and I either become part of the mountain or you roll right down it.
I think that's a really good analogy. Yeah, that was super good. I like that. That makes sense. The amount of powers at play that determine your positioning, whether they like you or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how passionate you are to within this particular type of
Right.
field. I feel like for sure that there are just so many things that are ready to just squash you down because it's not financially uh, appealing, to them, certain
Yeah.
changes. So
100%.
um,
It's
that makes sense.
and this is again by no means saying like don't be passionate and don't be that like one righteous person in the crowd of the ones that aren't.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, 100% stand by your guns all the time, but also realize when you're in a losing battle. Um, there's the whole quote of like, um, I don't know the quote off the top of my head, but the one about like knowing the things you can change, the things you can't, and
yeah,
the wisdom to know the difference.
yeah,
And so, yeah, you have to no, like there's a certain point where this is a well-oiled machine that I'm just not going to be the one to change it.
yeah,
I'm not, and it's just a matter of fact.
yeah,
But that leaves me in my scenario now where I'm clawing my way on that mountain. I'm the pebble that kind of just wants to let go and roll off, but like I'm scared of what's at the bottom of the mountain, right?
yeah, yeah. I think cultivating meaning in life is very frustrating. And I think that a lack thereof is the at the heart of every quarter life crisis.
Yeah,
Whether it's that you want a significant other and children, or whatever, you hope that you get it. Those things give you meaning in life. Those things give you a purpose and a
yeah,
drive and a reason to wake up and to do something with yourself. We all need some sort of mechanism that makes getting up and living and taking care of ourselves meaning and a reason to.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it's crazy to think about that. Like finding purpose in life and having a thing that you're doing consistently that gives your life meaning, that is like the food and water to, it's reasoning to take care of ourselves. It's a reason to do anything,
Yeah.
anything, and to put clothes on, to live. And I heard some interesting stat the other day, and it was talking. I can't give particular details on it. All I remember is, and it makes sense, that on average, those that are living in accordance with their purpose and passion live longer. It makes total
Yeah.
sense. Your passion, your reason for living.
Yeah. If you have more reason to live, you're gonna live more. It's just kind of
Exactly,
like,
exactly. It's food for your soul.
yeah.
And I think there's something important to point out that we haven't done yet, that I think it is absolutely crucial, is
Go ahead.
that you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket with purpose. And that, you know, I think as males, we've read that males oftentimes have a tendency to put all of their meaning and purpose into job, into protection,
Yeah.
things like that. Very few things. And friendship
Protection or
and
protect and provide. Yeah.
yeah. And I think we have to consistently search for things beyond the career as well. And it's hard though, because it feels like the career takes all the fucking energy to like find.
Yeah.
It feels like it takes all of the effort, and how much do I have left? Like, oh, okay, what gives me purpose outside of that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like trying to learn 7 languages at once. It's overwhelming and it's exhausting not having the purpose. So, your drive elsewhere just kind of becomes a little
It
bit
diminishes.
depleted.
Yeah. When you start pulling all of your fuel from every other aspect of your life and channeling it into this one thing,
Yeah.
you start letting those other parts of your life like fall by the wayside, and that
Yeah.
adds up. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I think that thing we brought up, just us talking a few days ago, the idea of knowing when to back off, knowing when you're pursuing this thing too much, right? This was your whole like light bulb moment when we were talking about it. So I don't know if you want to like explain it. You probably can better than I.
ah, I kind of had a correlation with flirting with someone desirable, right?
This one might work best for you guys out there.
You come on too strong, the girl gets intimidated and finds you're too, creepy, if anything, and backs off.
Yeah.
If you're not assertive enough with your intentions, she may not find that you're actually flirting with her at all, and she'll also find a way of like, backing off.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything in life, there is that healthy balance of an approach where you make your intentions known enough, while not being too strong. And that's usually that little level where it's like, okay, um, your intentions are clear, you're not coming on too strong. This is generally how people like to be approached.
And the
And
same thing applies to like in that search for purpose or search for whatever your career is going to be, is
yeah,
that if you come on too strong, if that's like the thing that you're on every single day, every single minute of your life, you're like, I got to be searching on Google what jobs go with these skills that I think I have. I got to be scrolling on Indeed or scrolling on LinkedIn. And that, in a lot of ways, can, like when you come on too strong with the girl trying to flirt, it pushes it away and it makes that actual goal unattainable because you're doing too much.
yeah, I think another really good parallel there is, um, when I was babysitting that puppy, and you put him outside into the grass, and he goes to the bathroom and everything, and when you go to get him back, he thinks it's a game and he's gonna sprint from you, and he will do that for like a half hour, and you're gonna want to lose your mind with anger of like, we need to go back inside. It's been a while. And I stopped running after him, and I just kind of stood there, and I sat on the ground, and what do you know, he came right into my lap. And it made me think that sometimes we got to know when to swim, and we got to know when to just lay on our backs and let the water carry us where it's going to carry us.
Yeah.
I think that what's important is, I think it's hard to make an analogy here with this, but having a boat, building a boat with the sufficient tools to still navigate you when you turn the engine off, right? You got the sail, you got the like rotors or rudders, whatever they're called, to
Yeah.
like, turn the boat, the wheel, all these things. Um, because sometimes you just got to conserve that energy. You got to
Yeah.
conserve the energy. You got to conserve the gas, because you know, pushing too hard when there's heavy storms and big waves, you're wasting fuel. You're wasting fuel, and um, yeah, I think that takes a lot of practice. There isn't a one size fits all type of approach where this will when to apply either or. It's just going to take a lot of active awareness to efficiently implement laying on your back or running after that thing. Um, it really is. It's going to take practice, and it's going to take looking back and be like, damn, I should have laid on my back, or damn, I should have ran harder.
Yeah.
Um, and we can't really know all the time. I say most times we probably won't know which one we should have used, but I think a big solution here is just being aware of that, being aware of the concept of that.
Hmm.
Because when we're mindlessly
Knowing when to
floating,
back off a little, knowing when
yeah,
to, yeah.
because if you're just mindlessly floating, you're not getting anywhere. But if you're also mindlessly sprinting, you're gonna blink and like depression, exhaustion, fatigue. You're sleeping like, oh my god, I slept 10 hours, but like it feels like it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Um, there's gonna be signals. There's gonna be signals usually. You got to look close enough though. But there's gonna be signals whether you're doing either or too much
Yeah.
or in the wrong times.
I think building that right group of people around you that can realize these things and point them out to you is also super
Yeah,
important.
absolutely. I think that's a sign of an incredible friend. Is someone that
Yeah.
definitely points out when they observe that we're doing too much of either or.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and yeah, I think that we got to look for things that make us want to sprint in its direction.
Yeah.
Um, life is a massive marathon, though it's over in the blink of an eye.
If you
But
sprint too hard at the beginning of the marathon,
yeah,
you're not making the finish line.
for sure. I think that you know, yeah, we gotta take our time, but you see, it's hard because it's easier said than done. When you crave purpose, drowning yourself in purpose, and allowing it to mold you into the person that you see in your head that you want to
Mhm.
become, but you don't have the tools in front of you to do it yet. It takes drowning in that passion to do it. It's it's unbelievably difficult to develop that patience.
Yeah.
It feels like you're in a vat of acid and you only got to stay in there for 5 seconds, but 5 seconds feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Um, and developing the patience, knowing that you're doing the right things. Um, I think that that's such a big part of it. Something that we've spoken about all the time, and that we're actively doing all the time, is um, working on skill sets within yourself that are going to be inevitably utilized when you get to whatever finish line that
Yeah.
you want to get to, because it's there, right? You getting that better job, you have to genuinely believe that you're going to get it, but you have to simultaneously be doing the like little micro activities that help you to make sure you get it. Working on your articulation, being able to speak well, and or work
Hold.
ethic, discipline.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say?
I was gonna say hold conversation,
Yeah,
things like that.
absolutely.
The analogy that comes to mind there to me is a blacksmith. Like we all know the goal is to make this like wonderful sword, right? But you need to have like the mold right. You need to have the material right. You need to have the fire set to the right temperature that can melt the iron or
Yeah,
whatever it is. You need to have all these things in place in order to make that sword in the end. The sword doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. So
yeah,
take the time to perfect the small things that are going to lead to the sword.
yeah. We can't wait for that thing to come. I think that there's a difference between the macro goal and the micro goals, right? So all of the micro goals make up the macro goal, and sometimes we have to, rather than sprinting towards the macro goal, jog within the micro goals, right?
Yeah.
Jogging within daily reading, taking care of your body, making sure you're healthy, checking in on your loved ones, and fanning the flames of your relationships that you care about. Um, Doing all of, I think for me, we've spoken about this regarding the Renaissance Man project, which is looking at the absolutely essential elements that are pretty much universal for all human beings for um,
Progress.
progress. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And consistently tending to those, like you're doing a great balancing act,
Yeah.
like you're cat in the hat with the plates on the damn sticks, and you're on a on the ball. Um, and sometimes when you don't know where to go, I think that going to those things is sort of the best direction to take yourself. And if you don't know what you're doing with your life, ask yourself when the last time you brought yourself into a gym. Ask the last time that you actively put yourself in a situation that felt uncomfortable but was healthy. It was a healthy circumstance to do so, but you did it and you persevered. I think just consistently playing with your comfort zone and engaging in things that are regularly bettering you in
Yeah.
all ways, shapes, and forms. I can't help but believe that that will inevitably take you to some desirable end.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to make you stand out. Ask yourself, how many people do you think are regularly doing these things that I'm committing myself to every single day? And I think regularly separating yourself from the masses is what's going to make you not
Yeah.
fall into them.
Definitely. 100% agree. Something we just briefly spoke about before we started recording that I wanted to bring up is the sense of isolation that I think exists for our generation with this feeling, with this angst at the beginning of our adulthood is isolating because I think that our parents, and when I say our parents, I'm saying generally, um, don't understand that. They don't. Their generation is a different generation that the end goal was to say become financially free or something like that, right? And that's understandable and commendable to every single one that achieved it, right? But in that effort to solely find financial stability and financial freedom, they never really stopped and asked themselves for purpose. It's something that seems unique, or not unique, but at least more unique to our generation, that our parents and their parents and our grandparents before them were not really asking themselves. It
Yeah,
came from like starting with the Great Depression and no jobs and nothing to eat and eating water pies and stuff like that. That all that mattered was we can never go back to that. That can never be our existence again. So the boomers ended up fighting out of the depression with um, uh, World War II booming the economy, and wartime just kind of rolled over into the Cold War, and that idea was taught to their kids, and they kept that idea of hard work because we need to get money, and then all of a sudden comes around relatively peaceful times, and that's where we're growing up, and in this peaceful time, we're like basic necessities are met, and that's when you start asking about purpose.
yeah,
That's when the luxury, and I 100% understand that it's a luxury, and I'm grateful for the luxury, but the fact is that I'm here regardless.
yeah,
The luxury to be able to ask for your purpose,
yeah,
to just think about what I want to do, is something that sadly a lot of our parents didn't have the ability to do.
yeah,
And because they didn't have the ability to do that, they can't really understand it when we're trying to tell them what we're feeling.
yeah. I agree. I think that isolation is
Excuse
really.
the jet engines going off in the background if you guys can hear
we
them.
have a literal sauna behind us. As our little makeshift recording situation for the time being. Hopefully that's not being picked up,
Yeah,
but
if it is,
we'll
yeah.
see. Yeah, hopefully you're bearing with it. Um, yeah, uh, it's interesting how it's a newer phenomena right now. The Renaissance period was similar, wasn't that? Where
Dark Ages, and then we hit the Renaissance, and
yeah,
everybody gets to kind of be relatively peaceful compared to the
yeah,
Crusades.
pursuing art,
Yeah,
science. People were like, let's let's advance ourselves as a race into some beautiful stuff, into some really
Yeah.
interesting forms of human expression and creation. Uh, it's interesting how that happens. Yeah, when we don't need to just throw ourselves into factories and like this is what our country needs right now, and we're serving that, and there is a purpose in that. There is a
Yeah, I think that
fulfillment that comes
becomes
from
like
that.
a hive purpose
Yeah,
of,
because it's needed, it's
yeah.
necessary. This is what we're supposed to do. This is what we have to do. Boom. Okay. All right then.
See,
There's
but I think that's the distinction right there. That's why I think asking yourself what you want to want is so important because,
yeah,
yeah, sure, that's a purpose, but it's almost a pseudo purpose because it's not what you want to want, it's what you have to want.
yeah,
It's what you
agreed.
have to want in that moment because we need these basic necessities to be met.
Yeah,
We have the luxury of being able to ask, what do we want to want?
yeah, yeah. Um, and I feel that if most people were asked that regarding the current job they're working,
Yeah.
they want to go to something different. At least I feel that. I feel that with the people that I've met and spoken
Yeah,
to, and just
100%. I think so many, and the numbers back it up with like 46% of people actually work in in the field of the degree they acquired. Um, LinkedIn said that 75% of people between 26 and 33 are have reported having a quarter life crisis. Um, that the depression numbers in this age group between 18 to 29 was about 20% back in 2017, and
mm-hmm.
today we're seeing that one in every three have diagnosed depression. That's only diagnosed.
Yeah,
One in three have
yeah,
a diagnosed depression, and I think that so many of us go with that undiagnosed. So I think the number's honestly higher.
it has to be high for sure. I don't think most people are going to a psychiatrist,
Hold
psychologist
on,
that
hold on.
looks at that. I think an important thing to ask ourselves is, are we okay with the sacrifice of pursuing something that doesn't fulfill us, but you realize that you're really good at it and finance is the type of life that you want to live? Can you do that? Because this thing that doesn't give you purpose is taking up most of your time. That's a huge sacrifice. Um, some people can do that and be totally fine.
Yeah,
And power to them. I don't think either path is greater or lesser than the other, as long as we're okay with what we're doing at the end of the day. Um, some people land that absolute freaking jackpot where you're financing the life you want to live and you're also filled with meaning and purpose and you love your craft. Um, it's difficult. It's difficult to one find a thing that either of these categories that I just stated. Find a thing that fits into either of these, and also just knowing what you're good with. What are
yeah,
you okay with? Does it take finding those things and doing them long enough to make that determination? Um, you know, hypothetically, we're right now we're doing things that we can't stand. We
yeah.
cannot stand what we do right now. If
My boss is listening. I love my job.
if if we were, if our salary was doubled, how would you feel about your job? If it was tripled, how would you feel about your job? Um, would you be able to keep doing it? I think that's a really important question we should ask ourselves, because then maybe it isn't as important. Maybe what's important is, hey, we're financing the way we want to live. Um, and we're able to pursue passion and meaning externally. Maybe you love
Mm.
playing guitar. Maybe you love backpacking different countries. Um,
Good luck doing that working 40 hours a week
yeah. Um,
with 12 days of vacation a year.
oh my god. But you get the point where, some people. What do you think? What do you think of that? Like,
I think that, yeah, are there outliers that will find fulfillment in the 9 to 5? I think there are, and just a matter of fact. But I think that that's not the truth for most people, at least most people of our generation. I don't think that. I think that people tolerate that existence. I don't
yeah,
think people want that
yeah. I
existence.
think I think that's being shown in social media presence and the way that people are pursuing lives there. I think that's also giving a very skewed perspective of how other people are pursuing
I
meaning.
think
And
a good way to gauge this, which I think all of you guys that are listening can also do, is think about what the small talk in your office is or your job, wherever you work. What's the small talk like? Is it, we're here today again?
yeah,
Uh, if the small talk's always negative and
it
it's all
is.
tongue in cheek,
Yeah,
but it's really not. That's the sentiment that everyone has. We're
yeah,
all here because we have to, because we got to get paid, right?
yeah.
But no one desires this.
Yeah, when you walk in, it doesn't feel like everyone is in a collective agreement that we're doing some virtuous act that we're all mentally patting each other on the back for and high fiving. Like, you know what, we're doing something good today.
Yeah.
We're making a difference. We're really, you know, putting our handprint on the, trajectory of the human experience in the world. It just
And I think a little bit of your own personal want just bled into that statement because
yeah.
that's not necessarily what everyone wants to find in their purpose.
Correct,
I
correct.
agree with it completely. That's what I would want as well. I wanted something that I feel like is affecting and in a positive way everyone that hears me,
Yeah,
everyone that I touch is affected in a net positive in their life. And
yeah,
if I'm not doing that, which I won't go into detail, but it's the opposite of what I do on a regular basis. Um, if I don't do that, I don't feel fulfilled.
yeah.
I don't feel like the parts of me that I identify with the most are being used.
Hmm.
Like, am I good at collecting information and writing up a report? Sure. It's not really doing it for me though, right? Like
Yeah,
that's going back to that just regurgitation of information that I think is really passive, just a very passive existence where I don't feel like the parts of me that I want to be challenged are.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's a difficult thing to grapple with, and it's hard to navigate because we've been the process of trying to find something new is crazy because you can job search all day and you could Google like what's something that I don't even know how to find
Yeah.
something that like mentally you want to just dedicate yourself to. It's very
I
difficult.
think
And
that's one of the most frustrating things you just touched on right there is we don't know how to look for these things. I
yeah,
can't tell you how many times I've looked up something along the lines of um, job that helps people or stuff like that. And I just I end up just putting my phone down out of frustration or closing the laptop out of frustration because
yeah,
it feels like I'm looking at nothing.
yeah. I wish there was a more productive way of finding jobs that feel like careers, not jobs. I think that's, you know, an important distinction is most of what I'm looking at feels like jobs. It feels like a thing that is a tool. I want an I want an end in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't want my job to just be a thing I do because it pays the bills. I
Yeah.
want my job to be something I enjoy and am proud of doing.
Yeah.
Something that I tell people and I can say with a smile on my face and no reservation of like embarrassment.
Yeah. And that again, finance is the way that you want to live life.
Yeah.
Um, because our pursuits external from that are just as important. But yeah, the whole navigating that is it's mind numbing. It's mind numbing because it's like, okay, well, where do I start if I don't know what I want to be, what I want to do? For me, I've thought that the most useful thing is, uh, we can busy ourselves so much with looking externally, but sometimes we just have to ask ourselves, what am I really good at? What if I look at within myself, am I so good that I feel like I really blow some competition out of the water and really distinguish myself with? I think you can start there. I think that that's a really good starting point. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of like, I did this and it works for me. Honestly, it's not working a lot, or at least it hasn't given me any immediate gains yet, but to me it just logically makes sense that like look inwards real quick, take a while, actually not real quick, take a while to look inwards and really ask yourself, what are you good at and what do you enjoy? And there's that whole Eastern philosophy of ikigai, where it's like the triangle. What are you really good at? What do you enjoy doing? And what does the world need? You take those three, and like an equation, pops out something that you could do. I think that's a really good starting point, but you can take the outcome of that and really look at it, and it could still leave you like you're holding sand in your hands. It just slips out, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay,
I've tried stuff like that before, and not to shoot down your your suggestion at all. I know it can help, but I feel like it's always left me at that same starting point once I'm done doing it.
yeah,
Right? It
agree. It
feels
hasn't. It hasn't. Yeah, like I said, I haven't received a lot either. Honestly.
I. It's just because it starts feeling like I'm looking at fantasy jobs. Like what what do I like to do? What do I think I'm good at? And then those things don't necessarily apply to traditional jobs. They don't apply to something I can find on Indeed, right? So it feels like anything I find on there is going to be that office, mundane, just passive existence type of job.
Yeah. And there's so many incredible fun things out there that people are doing that you just don't even know to even think of. And I feel like there's just a very particular, as I said, I feel like most of what I'm seeing are jobs, not careers, not things that are imbued with meaning in them, and fun and passion. And I don't even think that's looking at life through those rose tinted glasses. I genuinely think that jobs like that exist. It's just, I just don't think maybe they're common. I don't think that they're advertised frequently. I'm not sure, but
I think that the things that we're personally passionate about don't tend to curtail to traditional jobs very well.
yeah.
I think that there are those jobs exist and they're out there and they're the same ones we're looking at and saying this is terrible, but for someone else it's like the thing. Like I said, I work in criminology, and um, I have plenty of coworkers that seem to like this is their thing. They
Mm-hmm.
they think they're putting away the criminals and that they're helping society, and I completely disagree with them. But they're fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
They think they are doing the right thing. Like they think they're a superhero,
Yeah.
and I think that's the main issue with when we're looking for jobs is that the things that fulfill us they don't align with traditional jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, which kind of makes our circumstance even harder,
Yeah,
um, because I don't know, it's difficult. I don't know, it's very difficult to navigate because asking yourself what fulfills you, you can come up with a list of things, but oftentimes I can write a list, but
mm-hmm.
a lot of them just again don't equate to what most careers I see
Yeah,
actually are.
exactly.
And so it's like, okay, well, do we just need to make that absolute big sacrifice where I'm committing myself to something so frequently where, you know, I don't love it, but it's financing what I need, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it maybe either. Is it a luxury to just not hate your job and be okay with it?
I think that's a very complacent
I think
existence
so
that I
too.
don't want to accept. I don't
Yeah,
want to accept that.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't want to accept that either. I think that most people fall into that. Most people just fall into the I can't stand my job, but like I have no other options, and I
Yeah,
don't think of what I could be or have the self belief required to do it. Um,
maybe it's our lack of belief in like an afterlife. I don't know if we've said that before, but I think our like, in our minds there's this. This is it,
yeah,
and our 75-ish years on average that we have, that's the only time I'm going to be awake in existence.
yeah,
That's the
for
only
eternity.
ever. So looking at something and saying I'm okay with not hating it is enough is crazy.
Yeah,
It's such a waste of my little blip of existence that it's an acceptance that I can't fathom being okay with, that I think doesn't apply to so many other people because they have that expectation of something after that
Yeah,
you
there's
and I
something
just don't
comfy
have.
waiting for you. It's not done yet.
If I
It's just
believed
part of the
that
plan.
there was like paradise after this, I would be more willing to accept something I don't hate for
Yeah,
70 years.
yeah, yeah.
But when you don't have that belief, there's
I also think a big problem with it too is I don't think that, I mean, we're two people that contemplate death daily. I think it's healthy to,
yeah,
um, and I don't think most people really deeply contemplate, meditate on death. Um, and you look at life differently with that. You know the whole memento mori and
yeah,
carpe diem approach, where through reflecting on death, it's such a motivator for life. I think it is commonly misconstrued as some morbid, edgy type of like approach and thought process, but really, I mean, everything that we do is an attempt to run from discomfort and death and to optimize survival. And it's in the background of everything that we do, everything.
yeah.
And so, might as well look at it, might as well use it as a tool. Um, and I think that, yeah, it's we put such a pressure. Ooh, we put such a pressure on we put such a pressure on the fact that we exist once. What would it be like, and what would we do if that pressure ceased to exist?
Yeah.
What would it be like? What would it be like if we just suddenly were like, that's not a thing. Um, you're not going to die and you're going to live forever. The pressure of one existence, and that's it, is gone. If we for a while lived like that, I wonder if there would be some sort of change. Do we grip too hard to life that it blinds us to what we could be and do? Paradoxically, you see what I'm
One
saying?
of those like where you're doing too much or not doing enough type of thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I could see that. I could see that, but
It's like you go on a trip, right? Like, imagine you're going to some trip, you're going to somewhere beautiful, and you just can't stop thinking about, like, this is it. This is the last time I'm ever gonna be here. I need to just be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment.
that you're
And like,
never in the
you're
moment.
just not in the fucking moment. You're not enjoying it. You're not there. You're not present. You're not enjoying the views and the sights and the experience of what it's like to be there. You're caught up in, this is my only shot being here, and this is the last shot being here, and I need to make the most of it. And you're obsessing over that, and uh, it's hard not to. It's hard, so hard not to, because
Because again, we're of that mindset that like the
yeah,
lights shut off. They just do. Eventually the curtains close and there is no after show.
yeah. But I think that, again, we need to. Sometimes I think that reeling back is important, where you cling too hard to life and you stop living it. You know,
Yeah.
um, maybe looking in the mirror sometimes and asking ourselves if we're doing that is important. I think I personally have not contemplated, how would I live if I could live forever? What would I pursue? What kind of job would I do? Um,
At that point I think it removes the pressure and I wouldn't care.
hmm.
If I live forever, I just wouldn't care. There's not a
There isn't a
timetable.
drive to do
Yeah.
anything. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
have time to do everything.
yeah, yeah. You would. Um, I think though. I think though that you could, regardless. I think the argument still stands where it could be taken to an extreme. You know,
Yeah.
where being on that trip and being obsessed over just being there once won't let you enjoy it and won't let you pick up the details, and maybe the details that you're not picking up are the ones that are actually going to help you to take you somewhere.
That makes sense.
um,
It's something I'd have to contemplate on some more to give a better
I
answer.
agree. I agree. It's something that just came to me just now. But it does fall in line with the the whole when to lay on your back and when to, swim against the current
Yeah.
type of a mentality. But yeah,
Coming no surprise, this isn't going to be one of those videos where we give any answers.
hey, we have no answers.
We're right in the middle of this right now.
We are literally in the trenches of self-discovery and what we want to do and how we want to do it. And
Yeah.
we're just in a battle right now of self betterment in a healthy way, not toxic self betterment. I think that some people just like, quick example, the like, wake up at 4 a.m. for the sake of waking up at 4 a.m. But like,
Yeah.
Something we spoke about regarding self betterment is a way to stick with it, and a way to like make it work for you is to have a reasoning behind every single self betterment task that you have. Don't just read 10 pages a day because I'm supposed to and I read that that's good for you. Engage with each thing with curiosity and really, really, really get to the crux of what motivated you to want to do this in the first place.
Yeah.
It's going to increase your odds. You're going to stick with it. And it just imbues more meaning in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more that you look at anything that you're doing and have answers for it, it's going to help you live more meaningfully. You're going to, like little marbles in the bucket of meaning. And we just got a little garnishes to the plate. Like, the meat and potatoes of our meaning platter isn't there right now, but garnishes are better than an empty plate. Those side little dishes.
Work on those small things.
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of where we would leave it off, is that we don't have an answer for the big right now, but work on the smalls. Work on the many smalls, and they will eventually add up to the big.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
I think that, like, it's like you work out long enough and hard enough and do the right things, you're going to wind up with a physique that you think is admirable or you feel good about.
Yeah.
In the same way that doing all these things, I can't see them being for naught. They something's going to come out. You're casting some crazy bait into the ocean. Something's going to nibble. It's just on a long enough trajectory, something's got to give. And I think
guys. Something's gonna nibble.
It.
Something's gonna nibble, guys.
Cross your fingers. But I think
thank you. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, guys.
Sure.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye.